everyone. Gwendoling from Multihulls World. We're here in Cape Town today with Phil Berman, the founder of Balance-Catamaran, and Mark Delaney, the factory director here in Cape Town. We just did a tour of the factory, so you're going to take us around a little bit and show us all the beautiful models that we have, including the factory itself.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for joining us here in South Africa. It's a pleasure to have you. So we're sitting at our balance yard at the moment, which is a 9,000 square meter facility based in the Cape Town harbour. So we've got close proximity to the water for our launches. Behind Phil here is the balance line, where at any one time we'll have roughly 15 boats on the line in different stages of build. We've got approximately 600 people working here on the various stations, and the boats go through a cycle and move down the line. It's dependent on the amount of the differences between the models and the different specifications on board as to when the boats are moved. But basically they're on different stations and different work carries on each model as it goes through the line. And the new 502's just entered the line now, so that's very exciting. And we, as you know and have seen, we're busy with the first 464 models as well. So it's an exciting time and going to be a great year for us.
Sounds good. So you basically have 2 models in production at all time in this factory here.
Correct. That, and then what we call the custom line, the 750 as well. So the Balance 750 is also built in this facility in a different part of the facility, but it's also built on this site as well. And then we do our furniture and some of our small moldings in another facility that is just around the corner. So the furniture is built off-site and then also by ourselves, not by a separate company. And some of the smaller moldings, the hatch lids and what we call small molds, any small composite components are also built at another facility, which you'll get to see. We have at this facility we have our project managers specific to the 2 different balance lines. A lot of people that will be watching this will know Peter and Shireen well by name. They attend most of the boat shows and they're sort of the customer liaisons and ensure that the boat specifications get put down to the floor. We have a design team and a whole design office with, I think, roughly 11 people working in it. That's at one of our other facilities where we do the interior fit woodwork and carpentry, and they're responsible for detailing the interior of the boat and detailing the systems, the electrical systems, the plumbing systems, as well as the carpentry detail drawings.
Okay, so the design is done by Anton Dutoit and then it's brought in-house to do all the detailing part.
The design is done by Anton Dutoit together with Phil, and then the interior factory shop detail and interior details we do in-house, as well as the systems designs we do in-house.
Okay, and in terms of numbers, how many boats do you get out on the water every year, pretty much?
So we are launching between 18 and 20 boats a year of those 2 models,
Yeah, between 18 and 20. And at any given time, there's always 1 or 2 plying their way across the Atlantic, and we follow them and predict wind in the office, Peter and Shireen.
So we've got the process after the boats are launched. We've got a marina in the waterfront. I'm not sure if you've had a look at that yet. We have 5 slips. So at any one time, there'll be anywhere from 2 to 5 boats there that are going through their final commissioning process, handover process with the client, where one of our balance captains goes through the boat during the handover, teaches them how everything works, and then the owners will start to prepare for the transatlantic voyage across to their first stop being Grenada. And if the boats are being shipped, then they will do shakedown sails here, testing, make sure that any snags are dealt with, and then we'll prepare the boat and wrap it for shipping.
And to date, we've shipped some of our boats to Europe and some of them to the United States. Typically, the ones that go to the United States are offloaded in Florida, and in Europe it varies depending upon. But they're always in the Med, though.
Yes.
They're either Italy or France, or Italy or France are the prominent locations. Yeah.
So on the factory floor right now, you currently still have the 442 and the 482 in production. That's being replaced by two new models, the 464 and the 502. 502 has already made his entrance. Can you explain to us why those new models? What is new? What is upgraded? Just
Sure.
tell us.
Yeah, well, over the last 3 or 4 years, particularly about 4 years, we've had a lot of people that have been interested in getting hybrid boats, hybrid electric of some sort. And we attend regularly the METS conference up in Amsterdam for our trade, and we follow what's going on. And Mark and I and Peter and Anton, we all been looking at many different hybrid options, but we weren't really satisfied with very many of them until Integral came along with their new eDrive. The eDrive, however, requires a slightly larger engine bay. It puts a little bit more weight aft in the boat with a hub. We're finding that some people are wanting to put larger tenders on their boats in the back, and some of them wanting to put more solar panels off the back davits. So we wanted to build a boat that was a little longer, that had a little bit more aft payload capacity, but was also going to be leaner and a little faster. And then take all of the feedback we've gotten from our boat since inception from customers and improving every little thing that we could do to create the composite perfect catamaran, or what we thought was the composite perfect catamaran. And that brought about the 502. There are many things about the boat that are quite new and different, not only in the way it's designed, but also in the way it's fabricated. So Mark's talked a little bit about that earlier, about the carbon core of the boat. And I thought it might be interesting, Mark, for you to share a little bit about the evolution of the build process of the 502, and also the 464. The two boats are basically all of the good ideas that we learned over the past 14 years of being cooked into these two models. And the 464 is really a scaled down version in many ways of the 502.
Correct. Yeah, the 464 and 502 build processes are the same. It's really just a scaled version of the 502. So in terms of the build of the boat, we've obviously, like Phil mentioned, got a completely new design, complete new tooling. With the tooling's been designed in a way to be able to get rid of any small moldings on the boat. So we've got fundamentally a 3-piece hull mold. So the two outer hulls and the bridge deck and inner hulls. And that's been designed in a way that we can get it out of the tool without breaking bows off or breaking sterns off, etc., etc. So there's only a joint down the center line of the boat, and that boat is built in a single piece. So it minimizes joins, and obviously that minimizes any fairing and takes away some of the weight. The skins of the boat are infused, the core is infused, and then the inner skin is infused. So we're trying to ensure that we minimize the risk of dry spots in the outer layer, which you can never get to see. And that's obviously a concern for any builder. Then the exterior shell of the boat, like I've explained a few times on the floor, is built out of e-glass. The reason that we've chosen e-glass is because it keeps the whole interior quiet. So compared to having a carbon exterior shell, so you don't hear every single scratch and noise on the deck, on the side of the boat, etc., etc. And it also prevents any corrosion and issues that are associated with having a full carbon skin boat. The rest of the boat is then built with what we're calling a carbon core, or like a backbone. So if you could imagine anything other than the shell of the boat, the rest is all built out of carbon. So the floorboards, the tanks, the appendages, the structural, or not structural only, all the bulkheads we've designed.
Cabin soles, partitions.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's all been built in carbon fiber now, also infused panels. The salon tray has been built as a single piece unit. You'll have a photo of that. So that's all helped to A, bring the weight down substantially, and B, stiffen up the boat nicely. Yeah, so you're getting a nice stiff boat, you're getting the benefit of the carbon weight saving, and we feel, so it's almost like the hybrid of the composite side, where you now have a boat that's still from a noise and a maintenance point of view in terms of the outer shells of the boat, you'll know what happens with carbon boats from, there's lots of information around on that, and we built some full carbon custom boats that they become tough to maintain where you've got fittings going through that carbon fiber. Yeah. So that's really on the main structural process. We've got all our lids are now RTM molded, so you have a finish on the inside and outside of the lids, and yeah, so I think that helps improve the finish and fit and feel of the boats too.
Yeah, and then in terms of the rig on the boat, when we were down earlier looking at the 750, I explained that the rig is different now. So the forebeam is set lower on the hull, and there are stays that come up through the forebeam so that the Pelican striker is much shorter, and we can put the forestay further forward, which has increased the J measurement on the self-tending jibs, which was really important because on the 502 and the 464, we really wanted to keep a self-tending jib rather than have an overlapping genoa. But by making that change, we've increased the size of those sails considerably. So it's really powered the boat up for that light air, wind range, sailing to windward. So if they also get a big screecher or an asymmetrical spinnaker, the boat's got great versatility, in terms of its sailing performance. And the mast is a little taller on both the boats, and the sails are a little bit bigger because the boats are longer and they're leaner, and they're obviously going to be faster. The one of the innovations that we did on this boat, we're calling the VersaStern. So it's basically on the current boats, you've got a big open stern, and in big following seas, when you're sailing back from South Africa and you've got waves breaking on the back, you can get water, coming into the cockpit of the boat. Mm-hmm. And also some people like the fact that, if you can close that off, if you've got children or people, it's technically safer. So on most boats with open transoms, you have either washboards, they're boards that you put down in slots, which is what we do on our current boats. And so when you don't need the washboards, you lift them out and stow them away, or you've got canvas or some sort of mesh type of scenario. And I gave a lot of thought to that and talked with Anton about it, and I said, gee, wouldn't it be great if it was instant and you didn't have to stow these things away, and you could just lift a door up and latch it and immediately close off the transoms of your boat. But anytime you wanted to be at anchor or dock the boat, you just drop them, because there's nothing better than free flow out to both transoms from either side of the boat when you're docking the boat, because you always dock the catamaran stern first. So you can just walk down, do your deed, and it's easy. But if anytime you've got kids, you have a dog on the boat, you've got following seas, boom, you just lift this thing up and attach it. And I thought it was a really a good solution. I mean, there's other builders that have tried some other solutions, but this one to me made the most sense. So that's been designed and tooled into the new boat. So the rig was a big change. Another significant change to the boat is the interior of the boat. All of we hired a design team of several people, interior designers, and designed the interior to be a little bit more like a lounge inside, because what we find is that when people are sitting in the boats, they don't necessarily want to sit upright like at a dining table. They want to read, lounge, hang out. So we worked with an Italian design firm to design like really cool looking, almost sort of like loungy couch sort of thing. We also designed the nav station. So for those people that really want a nav station, they can have a nav station. In the past, I've felt that nav stations were an anachronism. And why do you need a nav station? Because on the VersaHelm, when the helm is down, you have the chart plotter sitting there, and you can just walk around and see it or look on your laptop. But some people want a nav station, so we've given them the nav station. The other big change is the whole salon rooftop is now a big, large single piece, and we removed the central mullion in the middle. Now it's a big glass window across the center, which only improves the visibility of the boat when you're sailing from down below. But we worked with Goyo to create thin-framed, really nice big opening ports. So now we've got 3 big opening ports in the windows to bring in air without risking a window that drops down to the deck that lifts up, which could allow water incursion into critical electrical component systems, which has always been a big safety concern of Mark's and mine. So we did that, and then we built a roof hatch after the mast on the top, about 3 feet back, something like that, and it opens up. So now there'll be plenty of airflow for people that were concerned about that without losing that beautiful visibility that's so important to balance. That ability to see all 4 corners of the boat is a big part of our design. And also at the same time, Mark improved and Anton improved the down helm seating. You move the seat back a little bit to get
we just
some
changed the
more room.
ergonomics in that area slightly.
Yeah.
There's a shelf now for owners' personal goods behind the lower helm wheel position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Access into there's an optional fridge under the helm seat, which now has better access. It's a very big area and something that's used frequently, especially on crossings, because it's a big space. So not only for drinks, but if you're going on a long voyage, then for
food.
Perishable food, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that and as well as the steps going up. So any small ergonomics changes that we could have got into the boat that we'd learned from
Upgrading as you can.
as time goes, from all the input we've had from our clients, we've tried to incorporate where possible.
Yeah, and the cabinetry now is the frameless kind of Euro style cabinetry. So you were in the cabinetry shop earlier, so you see a little bit and about what that's about. So the whole design look of the interior has been elevated. We think more stylishly, but they're all beautiful boats. And so that's one of the changes. The galley ergonomics have been improved, I think, too. And
we flipped the galley on the
we
502.
flipped the galley on the 502 to the opposite side of the boat, like we used to do the 442, because we found aesthetically it was better and functionally it was better. It was hard to improve on that kind of layout of that boat, though, inside. So there's no real major sort of radical change in the way we're orienting things, other than the flipping of it.
When you've got a product that works, you might as well keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the Versa helms always worked great, and we've really perfected that design and how to adjust it. The reefing systems are the same, because that we know works really, really well. The one big difference between the 464 and the 502 is that on the foredeck of the 502, in front of where the bulkhead is for the forward beds, on deck you've got a deck locker that's about that deep and this long, and you open it up, and so you have 2 big deck lockers by the back of the trampoline.
Okay.
We have enough foredeck on the 502 to put that in. The advantage of those is that you can put your fenders and lines, but also they're big enough to store a furled asymmetrical spinnaker or a furled screecher, so that you can actually attach and hoist right out of those lockers. So that's really quite a nice feature on the 502, because we have enough of a footprint to do that. The other thing on the 502 is that when those forward lockers are lifted up at anchor and kind of kept at an angle, wind is coming in, and there's vents on the bulkhead above where the beds are. So if you can imagine, I'm in bed looking out, and this is the forward part of the boat. There's a big vent to my side, and that will just blasts air through the boat. I think it would be a very rare situation where people would feel the need to run air conditioning on a boat like that if they were in any kind of anchorage with any kind of breeze. Obviously, in a docking situation, a windless dock, it gets kind of hot. So that's going to be neat. The other thing that we did is, on our current boats, we build fiberglass trays, upon which we inset the glass solar panels. And so they are attached to the top of the current coach roof. The new coach roof, there are cavities built into the coach roof so that the glass solar panels sit flush to the roof, and there's washers underneath them so that they'll still have airflow, which is vitally important to these things performing. But now it'll have a cleaner, a really clean look. Some people, like the soft panels, that you glue down onto the deck. And we're just radically, adamantly opposed to it because we've found that they don't perform very well. They tend to burn. They can lead to all kinds of problems. And we find that the performance of the glass panels is so superior that we're just committed to that approach. So now it looks like a flat panel in that sense. So aesthetically, it's quite pretty. We've changed the davits a little bit, made them a little longer and flatter so that when people have their tenders up at anchor, they don't necessarily have to strap them in like they would on a passage. You can just lift the tender in and out. All kinds of things like that. Raise the stanchions on the boat, on the boat.
I think the other thing with the davits is that it's now allows use of a wider range of tenders because clients purchase their own tenders, and there's so many different ones available on the market that they don't always fit perfectly in the davit. So with the new davits, shape is a lot more versatile to all the different or the most common tenders that we see getting put on the boats at the moment.
Fitting all these different types of tenders, it helped to have it like that. Another one thing that happens here at Balance is that obviously over the years we build boats using a range of componentry which we ourselves don't make, and whenever we work with a component or a company that makes a product that we find to be unreliable or not offering the level of quality we want, we ditch it and go to something else. So we've ditched quite a few different components to put on these new models that we like. We've moved to Goyo hatches over our previous provider because we think it's a better product. And we've also worked with Ullman Sails here in Cape Town pretty closely with Dimension Polyant in Germany to build a new fabric specific for balanced boats called Obsidian 150. And this is a laminate sail that's got a thicker taffeta. They're kind of a dark black color, and now it's got carbon Kevlar filaments running in both directions, so it can handle the heavy loads of these big leeches on the boat and still offer people a performance sail at an affordable price. Those sails are starting to appear on our boats now. That's a really a nice product improvement. More and more people now are doing the walk-in bows on the boats, right?
Yeah, on the starboard side,
on the starboard side.
502, on the 464 you got it on both sides.
Yeah, on the 464 you have it on both sides, and we put a big size 60 hatch on the bow of those boats, so you can get the sails in and out. Just it can be hard, to getting those big sails in and out. So all around, the boat will be a little longer, a little leaner, a little faster, can carry some more aft payload. It can be done in the hybrid version or not. Yes. Most people that have ordered the new boats are ordering the hybrid version of the boat. All so far.
Yeah. So the hybrid version, I think, is a great improvement in terms of getting still high generator capacity into your lithium bank. So we've always, all the balances have had 48 volt banks, 48 volt air conditioning systems. So we've been off grid, for want of a better word. But with the new hybrid version, firstly, your generation capacity is substantially larger, and you're going away from all the conventional moving components that were in the previous system. So it's a substantially improved system. And then you've got the added benefit, that's on the charging side, and then you've got the added benefit of having full electric power for maneuvering in docks or spaces that you're not allowed to use a combustion engine, or if you want to just pick up from an anchorage quietly and move off, then you don't have to start your main engines. So
and we're putting the first e-drive in a boat now in St. Francis on a 526. So we'll be doing sea trials and testing, and the people from Integral are there now kind of working on this project with us. So we'll start to get a lot of feedback on that product. I think it's very exciting. I mean, the fact that it charges at almost double the capacity of our current is incredible. And that you can get almost 15 kW out of one engine. And it enables you, there's so many combinations in which you can use the boat. You could be motoring with your diesel engine on one side, and if you're bringing in enough charge, you can run your electric motor on the other side, and you could balance it out. You could run with just one engine at a time, an electric. It's crazy how much. And I think the fuel efficiency, at least from talking to Integral, could be as much as 25%. So it's also a greener,
Significant.
product in that sense. So it's fun. I mean, for us, it's like evolutionary. It's always evolutionary. And by doing these boats in the carbon core, I think that, and then infusing the hulls and bringing some weight out of the boat, whenever we can bring weight out of the boat and sustain strength, it enables us to carry more payload or have slightly wider hulls. We've always had slightly wider hulls than some of our performance competitors, but that's because of the quality of the fiberglass parts, And if you can make lighter, strong fiberglass parts, you can have slightly wider hulls, more buoyancy, more payload capacity. I mean, the biggest thing that happens with flat-sided, performance-oriented hulls is that they'll sell really fast if you keep them empty. But the moment you start putting things in them, the sinkage factor becomes significant, and you can take a boat that has relatively high bridge deck currents and relatively low skin friction and turn it into a boat with very high skin friction very quickly. And that really degrades the performance of the boat. So what happens is that you get a boat because you want performance, but then when you load it down, you not only lose performance, but you lose the livability that you were prepared to accept to have this narrower boat with less cabinetry, less storage, less payload. Yeah. So it's always a quest for us, to find the lightest solutions that are quality, But I made this point, Gwen, that people say to us, well, why do you use glass windows in your boat? Like, we use glass windows. Well, glass windows are heavy. I'm sorry to say they are heavy.
They are.
But they don't shrink. They don't craze. You don't have to replace them every 7 years. They offer better visibility when you're looking through the boat. And so we're always balancing out these decisions of like what's durable, what's quality, or even with our cabinets. We offer more cabinetry in one side of our boat than a lot of our competitors do in their whole boat. But when you're going cruising, you want to put your clothes somewhere. You want to have a drawer for your underwear. You want to have a place for your tools.
Absolutely.
You want to have a place for your spares. When you're on a live-aboard boat or a cruising boat, which is what we're building, you have to have a place to store your stuff. And it's so frustrating, to go onto a boat and find garbage and stuff all over the place and nowhere to hang anything. And I recall, being in charter boats in the old days, and the whole middle of the boat is taken up with beds, with heads and showers, and there's nowhere to store anything. And by the end of the first week, things are just all over the place. And so I think it's really special at Balance that we have proper drawers and proper cabinets and proper lockers and spaces, for people to, to put things. But to do that and to keep the performance in the boat, as you know, we really have to build them carefully with that foam core. But to keep a really nice look, we have to use real wood veneers. It's just,
Yep.
and you want the boat to look really, really nice.
So your boats are semi-custom. So
Yeah.
you're offering a lot of different options, especially interior options. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So it's always been a unique part of Balance is that we allow people to choose from different flooring and different veneers, different fabrics, different countertop colors, so that each Balance is unique. It's unique from the exterior in the sense that they wrap it or paint it in different ways, and it's unique in the sense that the interior is done to taste. To make it easier for people, we have what's called a configurator. So you can go on to this configurator, and every single wood that we offer and choice, you can go click and you can turn your salon into a zebra wood salon. So I'll show you. I've got some of these veneers. So you could click and say, all right, well, what would zebra wood look like? All right. And then you could go, well, what would a white couch look like against this zebra wood? And you can click on a white pattern, or what would this pattern, you can click on, or how would this floor look with this? And so people can really mess around with the configurator.
Picture themselves in it.
They can look at the configurator and see white oak. They can go to configurator and look at, this is a Veneer Concepts Alpi Gray, which is kind of a popular European kind of look. They can go with an eco-sourced bamboo. They can go with a really classic Alpi teak look. And they can also go with what's now called Alpi striped sand. So it gives people a lot of choice. And what we've also done is we've worked with a design firm to offer people 6 different pre-designed ethics. So if you're in the mood to order a boat like you have to order it in Europe, you get this and you get that. You've got 6 different ethics that have been all designed. Here's what we suggest with the zebra wood, this floor, this fabric. So people are overwhelmed. They don't feel they have the design skill. They can just choose one of those options. No balance that we've built has ever been identical. Right, Mark?
Yeah. They haven't been two the same. No.
Too many different people out there.
No two are the same.
But I think that's everybody wants to be unique. Even like when they have similar colors, that there aren't. I don't think that there are 2 boats that are the identical color either. So everybody wants to have that uniqueness, but within the same sort of genre of what's happening.
Yeah, and then in terms of equipment, obviously we offer people a lot of different choices. Although one thing that we've been talking about lately is this relationship that we've developed with the Navico group.
Yeah.
And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Mark?
so that's exciting with Navico. Obviously, Navico has partnered with Integral on the eDrive system, and the Navico group has a natural suite of products that suit our application. With the eDrive, you are using the Multihulls system, and then the BNG system ties into that very nicely. And BNG has obviously got a great amount of value for specifically the sailors because of the different software that they have on their system. So it's a natural fit for us. We still will offer alternatives if somebody wants that, but now the standard boat with eDrives comes with a BNG package, which is, we feel, a premium package and obviously something that is really well liked by the market.
Yeah, and BNG, the Navico group, are currently working with us and BNG to have all of the information displayed from the integrals onto the chart plotter.
Correct, yeah, and they'll be making an announcement about, well, obviously you would have heard about their Fathom system, so they're developing an app specifically for balance, so that's going to be exciting on the first 502, which will be at the Annapolis show. That's going to have that system on it, and that will be really exciting bit of technology that's now coming together with the boats. I think the other sort of important part that was maybe missed a bit earlier in terms of our view of the hybrid system is that in this quest for going to a cleaner, greener sort of e-boat, the eDrive, you've now still got 2 combustion engines, 2 small combustion engines, so they still feel efficient. If you're doing true blue water sailing or ocean sailing, you've got the backup of two motors. Whereas when you're going for a pure electric boat where you've only got a single generator, you've got 1 combustion source, so you still, and to charge the batteries, and generally that combustion source is going to equal the size of the 2 motors that we've got. So we've got the redundancy of that, as well as the backup of being able to put an engine into gear and get to your destination if you're in trouble. Which
is a huge safety factor, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a massive safety factor and just a bit of peace of mind for if you're going sailing, blue water sailing. If you're doing coastal day trips in and out of a single point, then when you've got the backup and technology around you, then to have a pure electric boat is obviously something that you can do. But I would say that 100% of our customers are sailors and are doing longer voyages. I'm not sure of anyone that's just using the boats as a day sailor. They're all adventure boats. They're all doing things that are in remote places, and you need to have some redundancy.
Yeah, that was my next question actually. Who is the customer for 464 or 502? What is your typical sailor demographic of the buyers of those new models?
Well, anybody that's coming to Balance is not interested in placing a boat and bareboat charter right off the bat, right?
Yes.
So they're interested in a boat that sails and sails well to windward as well, because that's why we put the dagger boards on the boat. They're looking for a boat that gives them better performance, but also a boat that they can make a home, that they can be a livable boat, that they can really live on it. And many of our owners come from yacht club backgrounds. They raced monohulls. There's a lot of people like that. We have some very, very experienced sailors in our ownership group. But you also get some people that are new to sailing. I think that over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been this explosion of YouTube, social media influencers who are encouraging people to get out there and go sailing, which is great.
It is.
Some of them have less experience, obviously, than others. The question about whether one would get a 464 over a 502 is, well, obviously, financially, the 464 is a bit less expensive, but the way it pretty much works is the longer the boat gets and the leaner it gets, the faster it goes. So if somebody is craving an additional 5 to 8% more performance, they would choose the 502 over the 464. And if they wanted more performance than the 502, they would be getting the 526. And so as the boats go up in length, they get faster and faster.
The speed does go up too.
Yeah, they just get, like our 580, which was just launched, they took it out sailing, and this boat's sailing to windward at 11.5 to 12 knots. And on the first day they took it out, it hit 20 knots. Okay, well, you're not going to get that kind of performance out of a 45-foot boat. Not one that's equipped for cruising.
No.
Right? But I think that the 464 as a boat is perfect for a couple that want to go cruising, and they has enough payload capacity to do a circumnavigation, to do that. But if you want a little bit more speed and you want a slightly smoother ride, obviously the longer the boat gets, the less up and down motion you get, in a catamaran. So the ride becomes a little smoother.
Yes.
But you can still carry the same amount of people
Yes.
on the 464. And in some ways, we have a couple here from Europe, from Switzerland, that bought a 442, and that's the perfect boat for them in the Med. They're going to mainly sail in the Med, and it's a smaller boat for them to dock, smaller boat for them to take care of. It suits their needs perfectly. That boat suits them. Somebody that's going into the South Pacific that plans on carrying like a lot of kit and kiteboards and spares and parts and wants to go off the grid, then the little bit longer boat obviously offers, some real advantages.
More feet.
Yeah. Oh.
No, I think that the sort of balance range as a whole has something that's spaced for each person in a different category. So the nice thing with balance is whether you're buying a 526 or a 464, the basic layout and philosophy of the boat's the same throughout the range. And then you're getting different ergonomics and space, and then obviously as you get a bigger boat, you're going to get the performance benefits. But there's also a price difference between it. So you've got to weigh up the sort of basket of items that everybody's looking at.
Yes.
So some people are more price sensitive, some people are more performance sensitive, and some people just want to have a boat that's within a certain bracket that can do a round the world trip, that they can enjoy as a comfortable place in the Med and make it their home, as Phil says. So I think that each one of those, the different models, has its own niche for the purpose.
Yeah.
If you're taking your family and grandkids on the boat, then obviously the bigger the boat, the better. If it's just a couple, the 464 is working perfectly for a number of people. So
what you start to see, Gwen, is we have balance owners that have gotten older and have been sailing a lot, and the people that are getting, say, the 580, they're getting the 580 because they want a legitimate 4 or 5 cabin boat, and many of them are now getting a captain or a crew.
Yes.
People get into their 70s, 80s, they want a captain to manage the boat. So that gets that different category.
Space, is it?
Up to the 526 and these others, a competent couple can sail our boats.
Yes.
I would say that, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but our balance cats are the easiest high performance catamarans to sail. You can do everything at that helm station for the most part, except for operate your screecher or your spinnaker. One person can competently sail that boat, reef it, jibe it, tack it, steer it. And I'm really proud of that, because when you look at the performance cat market, a lot of times what I see is lots of extra lines and pulleys for really marginal performance gains at the expense of complexity. And the balances are really quite easy to sail. That's why we got to get you out.
Yes, I was going to say, hopefully we'll get to trade on our own.
Yeah.
Is it because of your performance such that you are not going into smaller models, or you just haven't had any, because now your range is going to start at 46 foot?
Yeah, so good question. It's not like we don't toss around the idea of a smaller model. I think that the reality is that in a 40-foot size cat, or a 41-foot size cat, you're really not going to be able to build a livable liveaboard that is high performance, because the equipment that you need to carry to live aboard comfortably is difficult to displace on a 40-foot hull unless you make it considerably wider. So the smaller you go, the harder it is to choose between what the compromise between performance and livability and equipment, right? And I think that if we did a smaller balance, it would be a coastal cruiser or an island hopper type boat, I think, because it would be more of a boat that a couple could live on, an island hop or whatever. It could cross oceans, but it wouldn't really be ideally suited to be crossing. You could do it.
It would be seaworthy enough to cross the ocean, but to get the living
not the main purpose.
Spaces and amenities right for the balanced product brand offering, that would be hard to put in a smaller boat. So somebody might want to do it, and they live very frugally, and they need one fridge, and so that it could be done. And so that's the space.
You have to put the boat on a real diet in terms of like equipment to sustain performance. And I think what would probably happen is if you design the boat for good performance, people would go in and still put on too much junk. I mean, I'm always laughed at when we use boats from our customers at the boat shows, so where we need to take all their things off so we can show her their boat without being full of all their stuff.
You realize how much
we
is
have
on board.
stacks and stacks and stacks of big plastic boxes with all their equipment. And that's just what's going to happen if you're living on a boat. So, yeah, I would say it's not high on our priority right now. But it would be a cool project. I'd love to do it.
Nice. Talking about projects and timelines, so the 464, the 502 has made the production line already. 464, when is it going to enter the production line, and when are we expecting to see those first two models out?
The first 502 should be at the Annapolis show this year.
Okay.
The 464 is going to enter the production line mid-year, and will be at one of the boat shows next year. I'm not sure whether it would make Miami, but certainly the American shows next year. I'm not sure whether we're going to be sending it to the European shows. We haven't made that decision yet, but so early next year would be the first 464s.
Yeah, we're in this real transition period. Yes. So you had mentioned about the Le Grand Mont show, which was be coming up in April, and we really can't show a new 502 and we can't show a new 464, so we'll be there in attendance, but we won't have a boat on display. We're in this real transition here because our new 58 just came out, and we're going to show a 58 in Annapolis, and we're hoping we're going to show a 58 that's being purchased by a French gentleman at Cannes in September. Okay. Those would be the first introduction of those new models to the market where people could see them. It's funny though, I think that most people that get really serious about getting a balance, they hop on a plane and they come here and visit us in South Africa.
It is a definitely nice destination, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a pretty place. So.
All right, well, thank you for your time, gentlemen. That was a pleasure to be here to visit the factory with you and discover a little bit more of those new models coming out. It's between the 580, the 750, 464, 502, we've got a full range of boats of
been a
novelty
huge
coming in.
commitment. I was talking with Mark a little earlier about that. Just a lot of people, I don't think they really understand the time frame from decision to do a new model, to designing it, to engineering it, to tooling it, to cleaning the tooling, to entering it into production, and to building the first boat. There's a significant financial commitment and a significant investment of time and energy and collaboration with a lot of people. But what you see in the marine industry a lot is builders will try and milk the same tooling as long as they can, because you can lower the price of the boat when you've amortized out the cost of all this tooling. But the only way to really keep improving and keep building better boats and innovating is you have to bite the bullet and take the risk and make the investment to do that. And we've just been really fortunate because we get all this great feedback from all of our owners. We're constantly asking them, what can we change? And of course, Mark, you get driven crazy sometimes by the request to put a handhold here or this there or that there, because everybody has ideas. And oftentimes their ideas are good. And so if there's a good idea and we can incorporate it, then we will.
Which means that you have to get new, and you can't reuse necessarily the same tooling and everything. That's when the investment comes in. And
yeah. Well, I think like Phil started off by saying was that with the integral e-drive system coming onto the market, we've been for a long time looking at a hybrid version, hence having partnered with Integral some time back on the first balance models or the earlier balance models. It was something that we then decided some time back, over a year ago, that we would start designing a vessel that would incorporate that into the boat, and that's where we've ended up now. So it's going to be exciting to get the first boats on the water and see how they perform. And I think all the changes to the exterior and interior in terms of the ergonomics and practicalities of the boat, getting more air into the boat, livability, those are things that we know are going to definitely work because we've had that feedback from our clients. So we're excited to see that, out in the market and in the field.
Yeah, and the new recessed window lines look really nice on the boats. The aesthetic, the boat has received a kind of an aesthetic modernization with the recessed window lines. They look really nice. Yeah, I'm excited about it. It was great to see the tooling this morning. So.
Great.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you for your time again, and we'll see you at the boat shows in the upcoming months, and hopefully we'll be visiting here soon again.
Super. Thank you for your time, and it'd be lovely to have you here.
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure.
Thanks.